Welcome to the I Need Coffee and Better Ideas podcast, where we caffeinate your brain with the freshest takes in news media.
Making niche content for a target audience is kind of the whole game. It doesn't matter if you're talking video or subscriptions. As long as you're making content for that target audience, it's an effective strategy. If a publisher is employing an intelligent video strategy, they're putting the right video in the right place at the right time, that is an experience that people will pay for.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the podcast. I Need More Coffee and Better Ideas. Today, I've got Nate Kelly with me, who's a former journalist at the USA Today and among other places, which makes me a bit nervous because I'm just a sales dude, and trying to interview a former journalist is nerve-wracking. How are you, Nate?
I'm doing really well, Berger. It's great to talk to you again, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me to be on.
Of course. We made a list of people, and you were high up on that list, so no doubt. So kicking it off, I always start off with sort of a question: how'd you end up where you are today, and what do you think were the reasons you ended up where you are today?
That's a great question to kick us off. And it's funny, I was listening to previous episodes of your podcast, actually, and I was kind of surprised to hear how others have hopscotched around. You think you're kind of the only one doing that, and then you zoom out and you're like, oh, there's people who dabble in this and go experience that and kick the tires on this. I was a journalist for 16 years and did a lot under the sun from running live trucks and, putting microwave mass up in the air so that we could do the news remotely. I was doing that for ABC all the way to anchoring the news for NBC affiliates, went to USA Today, did all sorts of amazing video journalism. We were lucky enough to take home Pulitzer Prize for the Wall Project that involved over 100 journalists across the USA Today network. I worked on kind of the audio-visual aspect side of that, and then went into kind of a lot of journalists have stories on how they kind of flame out of journalism and they go try something and then they inevitably get sucked back in because it's just so hard to leave the craft. And so I've gone into work for city government, and then I've gone to work for global media, syndication and distribution. And I've ended up at the Arizona Media Association as their vice president of development, which I need to describe because that sounds kind of nebulous. Really what that involves is I'm in charge of what's called the public education program, where we have revenue streams where we help government agencies and nonprofits drive advertising at a heavy discount. We work with over 300 media members and partners across the state. I had no idea there were that many media entities just in one state here in the U.S.
A lot.
It's a lot. It's radio, it's print, it's digital, it's television, it's progressive media, it's conservative media, it's independent media, it's nonprofit media. And we represent all of those entities, and we operate as a 501c6 to help them with everything that they need. So that's my day-to-day at the org. But the project that I'm working on right now that I'm really excited about is one of the things that we try to deliver to our partners is a big, hairy, audacious goal every single year. And in an election year, that is the debates. So earlier this year, we produced 13 primary debates. Coming up in less than a month, we're going to produce 16 live general election debates that are live streamed and simulcasted and offered white label to all 300 plus media members across the state that they can do what they please with. And we've had interest beyond the state. We've had interest from CNN. We've had interest from AFP. We've had interest from the New York Times. And it's really amazing to see us producing these shows and producing this content and seeing interest from not just all over the state, but all over the world. People are coming in and paying attention to Arizona because it's such a battleground state this year. There's so much happening. And it's really, really fun to be on the creative side again, on the editorial side, getting my hands dirty, producing shows and looking at all the technical nerdy stuff that video guys like me love to be able to put on a show and really just say, all right, we're going to go live at 6:00 and we've done our best. Let's put on a show.
Yeah, that's quite the undertaking. And you mentioned video there again, which is what I was sort of kind of go into with my next question here. Obviously, there's big productions and there's the day-to-day videos, there's entertainment videos, there's all kinds of video production that most media companies have to have some sort of relationship with. Although what seems to be the thing is like publishers are still talking about the pivot to video, but there's a lot of video companies that already exist. There's a lot of technology that already exists. And I'll be the first one to admit my competency in video is certainly not good enough, which is one of the reasons we wanted to have you on. And sort of what's your take on what should publishers be doing with video and where's it going? And what's sort of the money-making background for that? Because obviously there needs to be some sort of revenue attached to it as well, right?
It's true. And it drives me a little bit up the wall with all this talk about AI, and everyone's suddenly pivoted and focused on AI, which is good and that's fine. And there are amazing opportunities to drive revenue, to drive engagement, to generate more content in AI. But video is still the thing that we have now that can make the most money for publishers. That hasn't changed. That is ready out of the box. If you can do it right, if you can put a smart strategy in place, you don't need GPT to go do it. It could help, I suppose, but that's something that publishers can still, to this day, turn on and have an effective revenue stream. And you keep seeing people talking about, we're pivoting to video. We're trying to find a good video strategy. We've tried video. It doesn't work. And to your point, there's all these OVPs out there. There are products who can swoop in and offer a video player and content and revenue. They do deliver revenue to publishers, but when you've got that intermediary, you're getting a cut of it, and you're essentially offshoring it. You're saying, I can't figure it out. I don't know how to make it work. But there's these startups and tech bros who have spun up a video player, and I'll just let them do that. The challenge with that is those are really designed to drive ad revenue. You can talk to any of them, and I'm not saying that's holistically bad. It's not, but those companies are designed to drive ad revenue, and they are not editorially focused. And you will see them run the spectrum from placing video anywhere at any cost, regardless of relevance, and then some maybe do it a little bit better. But the problem is the last mile of video is still not being solved in the newsroom.
Right.
There's still a problem where journalists in newsrooms are saying, I don't know how to make video work because I either don't have the content, I don't have the technology, I don't have the awareness to put it in the right place at the right time. I don't have the gap bridged between my newsroom and my sales department. I know that's a big brick wall that is slowly turning into more of a thin veil, but it still exists. And they're saying, I've got all this content and I wish I could turn video into revenue because I'm tired of seeing all my friends get laid off. And
so not to cut you off there, but there's this thing that I've been thinking about, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been thinking about this, right? Where both me and probably most of my friends spend some time on YouTube, per week or per day. And a lot of these videos that are being produced on YouTube that are getting tons of clicks and eyeballs and engagement are not necessarily that well produced, right? Mm-hmm. They're okay. And of course there's a range, right? You'll find like Mr. Beast and those guys who spend millions on production. And of course, they're super successful. But then you also have those who have less equipment, less experience, and they produce, let's call it mediocre, videos, but they still reach tons of users every day. Of course, they're doing that on a platform. But I guess my question is does it have to be all that super tidied up and super professional in order for publishers to go into video and say that, you know what, we'll settle for okay for now and it'll give us something to build on and go from there? Or is that completely the opposite? Or let's just put it like this. Am I completely wrong? And they should, wait until they're like super confident. They've got all the tech in the world to produce it and then do it. That's where like, I don't really know how to look at it.
So I love this question because now we get to talk about video strategy, which is like my favorite thing. It's my jam. Look,
that's what I figured.
I'll raise my hand and admit that coming from television and then going to publishing, I've been wrong, a decent amount of times. Vertical video, being a legacy broadcast TV guy, I looked at that and I went, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. That's never going to catch on. That is so stupid. And, I get to eat my humble pie now. So, and to your point on production value, same thing coming in, like it has to be a news package or it has to be a VOSOT or it has to be, something that is professionally voiced and shot on a C100 or some sort of nice camera with this kind of lighting and this kind of sound and blah, blah, blah. None of that matters. Absolutely none of it matters. Now, there are different strategies in play there. If you've got a reporter in the right place at the right time with an iPhone and they're trained specifically to move that content quickly, that second part really matters.
Right.
But if you're trained to move that content quickly and get it back to home base and it's something crazy that has just happened, a politician gets indicted and there's a perp walk or there's a plane crash or there's a fire or there's whatever is that ephemeral news of the day that's moving quickly and there's a video element to it. If you can get that back and get it up on the website and get it up in the hero position on the article, and it might be quick and dirty and raw, that is absolutely okay. That will work all day long. Cross your fingers that you have a video advertising strategy to layer on top of that to monetize it effectively, because at the end of the day, we do need that. But God, that works. That still works. I would say that works for the ephemeral news of the day. I do think there's space for exceptional video storytelling at publishers.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
it's not
no doubt. And it also depends on the target audience, right? If you're a very serious business newspaper and your target audience are, business people, it could be that your strategy should be different than if you're, say, a tabloid who's reaching, the general public.
Right. And it's horses for courses, but you should be utilizing internal talent to produce quick video because that's how fast the news moves. And maybe that business org is taking video from the street, or maybe they're taking it from Bloomberg, or maybe they strike some sort of content license agreement to have more quantity to fill those gaps. They should still be doing their own content for their own audience. Mr. Beast is successful because he has found a enormous niche on YouTube, which is basically 14-year-old boys. But, he has this ability to target these kids, and, the production value has obviously become enormous and the things that he's doing are incredible. But who would have thought I'm going to go out and just make cool video? You can look at Mr. Beast, you can look at Dude Perfect, you can look at all these guys on YouTube who just went out and started creating niche content for a target audience. It turns out you don't need YouTube to employ that strategy. You don't need to be on YouTube to employ that strategy. Making niche content for a target audience is kind of the whole game. It doesn't matter if you're talking video or subscriptions or memberships of any kind. It could be podcasting, speaking of which. Mm-hmm. As long as you're making content for that target audience, it's an effective strategy.
Yeah, and I have to say, there have been times where I've looked at quote unquote traditional media outlets who are now producing what is supposed to be YouTube shows, but they're not. They're on their platform, and they've gone way overboard on the production. And to me, it's like, almost cringeworthy, where I'm like, you're putting some 22-year-old journalists, which is fine, but then you put them in this super professional scenario or setting, and then they're supposed to talk about these viral videos that probably 80% of the target audience have already seen on YouTube. And you're spending all of this money on production, while the return on that, I can't imagine that being significant, because you're overlaying it with a couple of ads. I can't imagine that being super successful. But yeah, I think like you were talking about, there's room for both, and there should be room for both. As a pretty avid YouTube watcher myself, the format obviously of shorts and all that stuff, I've seen that coming more and more into media now, or traditional media. But you were talking about monetization. Is there a way to bridge the gap over to making video more, let's call it subscription friendly, and monetize on that? Or have you seen any good examples of publishers out there, making video, but they put it behind the paywall or something along those lines? I have to say, I've not seen a lot of it, but then again, my expertise is not in video, and I haven't really been looking actively for it either.
So my take on this is, if a publisher is employing an intelligent video strategy, meaning they're not putting garbage on the page, they're putting the right video in the right place at the right time, that is an experience that people will pay for. That is a complementary multimedia delivery that will not upset someone who's paying 10, 20, 30 bucks a month for a subscription, because the right videos in the right place at the right time. This is what I came for. This is what I expect. I'm not coming to see video everywhere. That's what YouTube's for. But when I go to an article that has a video element to it, it might be, Trump or Kamala or Biden or Buttigieg talking. It might be just raw video, but it's relevant and it matches and it makes sense. That's not a disruptive experience to a subscriber. One of the things that I think is really interesting from a subscriber standpoint is keep the video. The video exists regardless of the paywall. But if you are a subscriber, get rid of the rest of the crap on the page. Get rid of the display ads. Get rid of the gravity ads. Get rid of Taboola and Outbrain sitting on the bottom of the page that are really just trash. And now that half their images are AI generated, it's even worse. So get rid of all the fluff. Mm-hmm. Keep the video, because the video is the highest CPM that you have on the page. That thing's selling for anywhere from, $17 to $35. Your display is pennies compared to that, maybe a few bucks. So strip out the garbage. Get rid of the superfluous, extraneous, hey, look at this one weird trick will blah, blah, blah. Doctors hate that this guy cracked the code on
those
blasting belly fat. Get rid of all that. Nobody wants it. No one wants it.
No one. Yeah.
And if you deliver an experience that is stripped down to just content that matters, then you're delivering a premium experience that subscribers will appreciate. So I think video can exist everywhere. I think you remove other things that are less helpful and less revenue driving.
Yeah, that makes a total sense to me as well, where you have to make it that sort of exclusive product for people to pay for it, and all the Outbrands and Taboolas and that content. Sure, there's room for that where there should be room for it, but is it room for it in that setting? No, absolutely not, and nor should it be. So we're going to be rounding off, but I always ask our guests how many cups of coffee they have per day. So Nate, how many are we going for?
I am on my second cup of coffee so far today. It's 7:20 in the morning. I am probably halfway there. I would like to think I'm a 2-cup person. I am probably in reality a 4 or 5 cup person.
Yeah.
I'm going to blame my newsroom experience on that. We're used to, you will hear journalists talk. They will wax nostalgic of election night, cold pizza, and bad coffee. So I've upped my coffee game. I make a pretty good cup now, but coffee's in my blood.
Yeah, I feel you. I think 4 to 5 seems to be, I don't know, I haven't done the math on it yet, but it seems to be like that's where the average is, except our last guest who doesn't drink coffee. So my question was completely off, but good to get that mapped out. But yeah, Nate, thank you so much for being on. Appreciate your time, and good luck with the video production coming up. I know you've got tons of stuff happening, and I'll speak to you soon.
That sounds great. Thanks again for having me on, Burger. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Nate.